The escape pod hit the forest floor with a bone-jarring crash that sent William sprawling against the reinforced walls. Emergency lights flickered red, then died completely, leaving only the eerie bioluminescent glow of the alien jungle seeping through the cracked viewport. He groaned, tasting copper, and forced himself upright. Distress beacon activated, the pod's dying AI whispered before falling silent. Forever. William kicked open the hatch and stumbled into hell. The jungle of Theta 7 was nothing like the sanitized botanical databases had suggested. Massive trees with bark like obsidian stretched toward a violet sky, their canopy so dense that only fragments of the twin suns penetrated to the forest floor. The air was thick, humid, and filled with sounds that made his survival instinct scream warnings his rational mind couldn't quite process. Something large moved in the undergrowth. Then something larger answered its call. William had been a rescue specialist aboard the Horizon's Edge, trained for worst-case scenarios. But no simulation had prepared him for this, stranded alone on a Class 5 death world, where the food chain had teeth the size of his forearm and appetites to match. He had 72 hours of rations. The nearest rescue beacon would take weeks to reach him. If it worked at all through Theta 7's magnetic interference, the escape pod was already attracting attention. He could see eyes reflecting in the darkness, watching, calculating, waiting. Right then, William muttered, grabbing the survival pack and emergency toolkit. First rule of staying alive: don't be where they expect you to be. By the second day, Kylie had tracked the unusual electromagnetic signature to its source. As the expedition's xenobiologist, she'd volunteered to investigate the anomaly while the main research team established their base camp 15 kilometers south. What she found made her stop dead in her tracks. A camp. An actual, honest-to-God camp in the middle of the most hostile square kilometer on Theta 7. But not just any camp. This was engineering poetry written and salvaged. Metal and fierce determination. The structure sat in a clearing that shouldn't exist. William had somehow convinced the aggressive spike vines to grow in a defensive perimeter rather than tear him apart. The shelter itself was built into the massive root system of an ironwood tree, using the pod's hull plating as reinforced walls. But the details made Kylie's scientific mind real. A water filtration system jury-rigged from the pod's air recyclers, fed by a rain collection network made from stretched polymer sheeting. A smoke dispersal system that vented cooking fires through a network of hollow vines, preventing the telltale column that would attract every predator within kilometers. And most impossibly, a series of sonic emitters positioned around the perimeter broadcasting frequencies that made her translation implant buzz with discomfort. Clever, she breathed, recognizing the pattern. The emitters were mimicking the territorial calls of a Theta 7 apex predator. The six-legged nightmares the research team had designated crown hunters. Nothing would willingly enter a crown hunter's claimed territory, except the emitters were bluffing. There was no crown hunter here, just one very inventive human. You can come out. A voice called from inside the shelter. You've been standing there for 5 minutes. Either you're friendly or you're the worst predator I've ever seen. Kylie stepped into the clearing, hands visible. I'm Dr. Kylie Mendez, xenobiology specialist with the Frontier Research Corps. How are you even alive? The man who emerged from the shelter looked like he'd been wrestling the jungle and winning. Lean, scarred, with eyes that had learned to see threats in every shadow. But when he smiled, there was warmth there that the hostile world hadn't managed to extinguish. William Carter, formerly of the Horizon's Edge. As for how I'm alive, he gestured around the camp. Turns out when everything wants to kill you, you get creative or you get dead. I chose creative. Over the next hours, as Kylie's team arrived and established contact, William's story emerged. The ship had been attacked by pirates, forcing an emergency evacuation. His pod had malfunctioned, dropping him into the worst possible location. But instead of panicking, he'd done something remarkable. He'd learned. The spike vines are actually symbiotic with the ironwood trees, William explained, showing Kylie his carefully maintained notes on salvaged plastic sheeting. They attack anything that threatens the tree, but if you help the tree clear parasites, redirect water flow, they treat you like part of the ecosystem. And the sonic emitters? Kylie asked, already knowing the answer but wanting to hear him explain it. Crown hunters are territorial, but they're also smart. Too smart to risk fighting each other over resources. I recorded one's calls, analyzed the frequency patterns, and recreated them. As long as I keep the broadcasts irregular enough to seem natural, the real ones stay away, and so does everything else. Kylie shook her head in amazement. You turned their own instincts against them. You didn't just survive, William. You made them respect your territory. Respect might be too strong a word, William chuckled. But his eyes were serious. More like, I convinced them I wasn't worth the trouble. On a death world, that's the next best thing to being Apex. The rescue ship arrived 3 days later, but by then, William's camp had become something else, a research station. The Frontier Corps wanted to study his methods, to understand how one human had accomplished what their best xenobiologists thought impossible. As the ship's loading ramp descended, Kylie found William taking one last look at his camp, at the jungle that had tried so hard to kill him and failed. Any regrets? She asked. William considered the question, watching a pack of razorbacks give his sonic perimeter a wide berth, their predator instincts overruled by his borrowed authority. Just one, he said finally. I wish I'd had more time. This planet, these creatures, they're not evil. They're just trying to survive. Just like me. There's something beautiful in that, even when it's terrifying. Kylie smiled. Well, the Corps is offering you a consultant position. Seems they want someone who can teach survival specialists how to think like the planet, instead of against it. Yeah. William's expression brightened. That include return trips to Theta 7? If you're crazy enough to want them. William looked back at his camp one more time, at the proof that humans didn't need to conquer every hostile world they encountered. Sometimes, with enough creativity and respect for the local nightmares, they could find a different way. Dr. Mendez, he said, extending his hand. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership. As they walked toward the ship together, something howled in the distant jungle, a crown hunter, perhaps, reclaiming territory that had never truly been taken from it. The sound echoed through the violet twilight, a reminder that on Theta 7, survival wasn't about domination. It was about understanding that sometimes the scariest thing in the jungle wasn't the predators. It was the human who'd learned to speak their language,